In our monastic reading class every night, we've been reading this book by Swami Bhuteshananda called Sri Ramakrishna and His Gospel. And there's a paragraph here where he's talking about discernment and renunciation and vice and virtue and how to overcome these things, how to let go of things that have us trapped in an addictive cycle, as it were. So M, who wrote the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, is coming to the temple where Ramakrishna lives in order to do some spiritual practice while he's there. So M came to Dakshineshwar to perform sadhana. In order to encourage him, the master, Sri Ramakrishna, said that if one could cultivate intense dispassion, one could renounce the world. Lust and greed alone are Maya. So long as one does not recognize this Maya, God makes us go around and around. But once identified, Maya feels ashamed of itself and takes to flight of its own accord. We cannot be overwhelmed by lust and greed if we know what they really are. During sadhana, we should keep away from temptations, not out of contempt, but by changing our outlook. All right? So we change our outlook based on knowledge, based on a study of the effects of the things that we're pursuing in our life, our pleasures, the things that we prefer. Understand that to have a preference causes you agony because you can't always have your preference. The enjoyments that you seek out are often temporary and short-lived, and the price that you have to pay in order to afford them or to make them happen or to find the opportunity to receive them is often significantly greater in the invested time than the actual reward is in its length of time. And the reason that we don't know this and let these things fall away of their own accord is because of the active imagination. We always imagine our pleasures in a fulfilling scenario. We always imagine our vices in a fulfilling scenario so that they seem like they're going to give us what we want. And that's when we live in that headspace where we build up these desires as being potentially fulfilling and potentially sources of happiness, that they become impossible to let go of. So we have to break this cycle of imagining, searching, finding, and being hungry again and repeating the process all over. And so this discernment, it means engage in your form of enjoyment, but keep your eyes wide open through the whole experience. Don't fall into any hypnotic states about it. Pay attention to what you're doing and what you're going through in a very sober mind. Have the pleasure. Let that time pass. And remember how you feel afterward. Do you need it again? Was it at all fulfilling, or did it only make you hungry for more? And see, through this constant practice, we can break out of this cycle, and this lust and greed, which has driven our life and driven us into a corner of life in a constant repetition of hunger and eating, that we can break free. And so discernment's very important in our life. And renouncing the world is done not because we're not allowed to enjoy it, not because we're not allowed to anything. That we let go of things that don't serve us. We let go of things that don't take us higher in our search for the ideal, for being fully human, fully motivated by love and unselfishness. So these things will fall away when we understand their nature and understand what they are. And until they do, we need to keep our eyes wide open and discern constantly about the nature of the things that we're pursuing, and keep only those things which have a lasting fulfillment in them.